What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Well, good afternoon, good evening. This is Ralph Kermit Winterrowd II, and I'm sitting in today for 2 hours. I have not listened to the host here. I'm so busy with my own research and stuff. There's a lot of good hosts on RBN. It's something I need to do more of. But what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to make a couple of comments about Antifa. These people that are, Laura Logan, she really nailed it. These people that are professional agitators. She said you can spot them. They got the fancy gas masks. They usually got a backpack. They got an earpiece for communications. They're professionally trained. They're paid by Soros or other people. They're paid to stir the pot. They have a manual they operate off of. And I am so glad that it looks like Trump and Barr are going to declare them a terrorist organization, because that's what they are. All these people aren't doing this all by themselves. I don't know if I had a business, which I used to do until I funded Joyce Wiley's Gulf War Syndrome movie, which I have no regrets. That cost me my business, but that's fine. It's a minor thing to do because she helped thousands of vets. I'd have been out there protecting my business with a gun. And I'd have been videotaped it to protect myself. In this crazy world, you have to have a video. And of course, the thing is, I'm in fear of my life. You come in my shop, I'm going to say, you better turn around, because I'm in fear of my life. And then we would have a confrontation. Somebody would be leaving in a coffin, and it wouldn't be me. So that's just me. These people, if they want to protest, do it peacefully. I cannot believe that these blue state governors and these blue state mayors, I mean, they just bend over backwards. Come on, burn down my police station. You got to be kidding me. And now what is even crazier is these people burn down their businesses in their own neighborhoods. And then when they get through, they got no jobs. They got no businesses. A lot of them aren't going to come back. I wouldn't come back either. And then they can't sell the property because the property values are down. Boy, that really worked out well. You just can't make this stuff up. But these people that are stirring and agitating all this, because the Democratic Party is the party of Satan. They are leftist. They are anarchist. If you don't have a border, that's anarchy. Socialist and Marxist. You can't make this stuff up anymore. It just shocks the conscience. I'm 78 years old, and I've seen a lot of stuff. And I tell you, the Democratic Party and a lot of our rhinos, there's a whole bunch of them. They need to go. But if people want to vote in these Democrats and burn their city down, all I can say is get it on. Burn her down. Burn, baby, burn. Maybe you'll wake up. I hope. I really hope. I saw the movie again, Midway. Because Alaska, I'm in Alaska, by the way. People that don't know who I am, I have a show every Sunday from 5 to 7 on Republic Broadcasting. I saw the movie Midway again. And we are so blessed to live in a country where we have the freedom and liberties to do what we want. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But those pilots, they had 15% chance or less of coming back, and they went out. And they won the war. They took down 4 Japanese carriers. We were outgunned. They had faster planes, better planes, more of them, more carriers, more ships, and our country set a trap, and we licked their butt. We kicked their tush big time in Midway, sunk 4 carriers, but at a tremendous cost. How many people, knowing that you probably, with the odds are so slim that you're going to your death, would hop in that plane and say, I'm going to go fight for my country? How many people would do that? I'll bet you not many of these people that were protesting would do it. They're cowards. then what's to be going into all these stores? Oh, I get the TV. Yeah, free TVs, free this, free that. That's just, I don't know. We've got a bunch of sick puppies in this country. But of course, the Antifa is stoking them. What I'm going to talk about today, my specialty, is the Internal Revenue criminals, our government, or the lack thereof. And I can tell you unequivocally, and I can prove it, our constitutional republic has been overthrown. Now that's one wild statement. Believe nothing I tell you. But I have the evidence. I can prove it. I've been doing this since I lost my $2 million business after I did Joyce Riley's Gulf War Syndrome movie. I've been doing this for about 20 years now. And I have Westlaw. And I can tell you right now, if you're in this battle and you don't have Westlaw, you have almost no chance, zero, of taking on these high-powered attorneys that use Westlaw or Lexis. Westlaw is they got a better stuff than Lexis. You have almost no chance. You're in over your head. And what I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to give you the case, and you can check out. You can, if anybody's listening wants the stuff that it's not. I have a list, IRS list for $250 a year, postal money order, preferably Walmart. And I put out real documents, real cases, battles that's ongoing right now. And we beat the IRS on books and records. We beat them on this case, on the Mooney's case, on a reduced to judgment. They took their property, though. We won for 3 months, and then they did an ex parte email and threatened the judge, and so we are fighting it, and it is available on the internet, in Pacer, and it's in the United States Federal Circuit Court of Appeals. The number is 20-1075. 20-1075. I will give you the brief. It took us 3 tries, me, to writing the brief and then getting it proof, the Moonies, to get it accepted. I've never had that much trouble getting a appellate brief accepted. But they do something called Bates numbering, B-A-T-E-S, Bates numbering system. And actually, it's really good. And they do something else. Not because I've been to the Supreme Court, appellate courts, all kinds of appellate courts, 9th, 10th, 4th, about 11th, been all United States District Courts. But they do something which I'm going to talk about that is really, really good. Because, I got my phone here. I need to turn my phone off. Somebody's trying to get a hold of me. It's called Standard of Review. Really an important concept when you understand it. I've seen, they always have Standard of Review, but I've never done it in the way that's required by this court. Now, we don't have any constitutional courts left in America. There are no federal constitutional courts except the Supreme Court of the United States. Under Article 3, Section 1 and 2, exercising the judicial power of the United States, doing law and equity. You have to put all that in. We don't have any. There are no constitutional courts in any of the several states. Easily proven. How could I make a wild, crazy statement like that? I don't know. I haven't looked at every state. I can tell you how. Because all of these states have adopted the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. Check it out. Or email me at IRS@AlaskaMinuteman.com, IRS@AlaskaMinuteman.com. Tell me what state. I'll do a quick word search and email you back. You can read it yourself for your own state because it'll take me about a minute. I just do a word search for it. They've all adopted it. What does that act do? That act says all of the elections are only for federal offices. There are no elections for any of the state offices, the public officers of any of the several states. That's the first problem. And it's only for citizens of the United States. That's what they say right in the act. And therein lies the core problem in our republic. The citizen of the United States. Everybody, and I am including me, long time ago, thought I was a citizen of the United States. Everyone listening, I guarantee you, you can't exist without signing up somehow that you're a citizen of the United States. And do you know what? There are very few people know what that means. It's very well hidden. What is a citizen of the United States? What is it? A citizen of the United States. We got the 15th Amendment that has a right to vote. What does that mean? It means you have the right to show up at a building, and they can't keep you from going into the building because of race, color, and all the other nonsense. Fine. But once I get into the building, who has what's called the right of suffrage or the right of the elective franchise? Citizens of the United States don't. Supreme Court's ruled so. They don't have that right. Well, if you put all the elections to just citizens of the United States, we got a problem because there is no right to the elective franchise. There's no right of suffrage. That's why when you researchers, because I started out doing this, I found our judges don't have the proper oaths of office. They're not have the civil commissions like they're supposed to, and on and on. I said, well, man, I got him. No, you know, I can sue a judge. I've sued a judge in Alaska, and it can be done. And we're going to start suing IRS officers. Oh, I'm going to enjoy the heck out of that. They can be sued under Bivens. They can also be set up under the regulation of 26 CFR 301.7433. You tell them what rules and regulations and statutes they're violating, and they have 6 months. Otherwise, you can go to the Kangaroo United States District Court and sue them for up to $1 million. But you can bypass all that. You can do them both. And I'm going to be showing people how to do it. I've been researching it because I'm tired of being on the defense. Because you see, ever since the Civil War, everything is flipped upside down. They made the premier citizenship a citizen of the United States. What's it supposed to be? It's the people of the several states. That's in the Constitution, by the way, Article 1, Section 2. That's the ones that put in the House of Representatives. People of the several states. Not citizens of the United States. That's the same thing as the citizens of the several states. The people that have domicile in a state, because these several states are sovereign little countries. And they're called the several states. They're independent. They have their own constitution. They're supposed to have their own laws. They don't have that. That doesn't exist anymore. You just can't make this up. I mean, this is, I got a law review, 185 ALR, I think it's 155. South Carolina sued and said, you guys can't do this because you're in violation of the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment, most people know the 10th Amendment says what's not in the Constitution is reserved to who? The several states and the people, us. We're the sovereigns, and we did a limited delegation of power through the Constitution of the several states and through the Constitution of the United States. And what we didn't give you, we reserved to us, or the several states. 10th Amendment. Do you know what the court said? 13th and 14th Amendments don't have anything to do. They trump the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment a citizen of the United States is not covered in the 10th Amendment. Now, that ought to be a shocker. The 10th, a citizen of that status. And this is another one of the things that took a while to prove all this. It's a status, it's taken on a character. Like you take on the character of a tenant or the character of a landlord. Or you take on the character of being the CEO of a corporation. These are statuses that have laws. And you take on the status of a citizen of the United States, which technically does not exist except in the District of Columbia and the territories and possessions. Doesn't exist in the several states. Supreme Court said so. But then when it gets confusing, and I was caught up in this too, I'm telling you, then they're done it. You go look at the definition of person and they say, oh, it means an individual or a corporation or a limited liability or a partnership or something. You say, wow, well, how can I must be a corporation because I'm in the same ballpark definition. And that's what I looked up the word means. When it says means, term means, it's an exclusive, unique definition, which has nothing to do with the dictionary definition. Tom in Florida, question or comment?
Yes, sir, Ralph. First off, I'm just wondering if the Democrats are going to ask for a stimulus for the rioting. Also,
I'm sorry. What was the question? The Democrats are going to do what?
They're going to ask for another stimulus for all the burning down of the cities.
Oh, of course.
They're going to ask.
That's what they do. It's free stuff.
Yeah, and also these people are beasts. They're I don't know what they're antichrist. I don't know what you call these anarchists. I don't know. These people are beasts. What they're doing, they're burning down our American cities. They vandalized the Lincoln Memorial last night, and they burnt down the church. I guess what Martin Luther King had. So, what kind of message are these people sending? George Soros's scumbag beast. What are they sending? They want the destruction of America? No, they all need to be severely punished. Now, what the officer did in Minnesota, it was very bad. But however, I was watching a full video of that, and I didn't realize it, but he was screaming before he got, when the first Asian officer arrested this guy, he was complaining he couldn't breathe. He wasn't complaining when he was on the ground he couldn't breathe. When the first officer arrived on the scene, if you watch the whole video, he handcuffs him, and Floyd starts screaming that he can't breathe, and he's when they put him in the cop car, he said he's claustrophobic and he can't breathe. So I'm not making excuses for the cops. What they did was horrific. But this is like I don't know what to think of this. And they were both bouncers at the same Mexican cantina in Minneapolis. Floyd and Chauvin, they worked in the same bar as bouncers.
Well, I can tell you this. Here's analysis. First of all, these people look for any excuse, and it happens to blacks, and it happens to whites, it happens to Asians. They look for any excuse, okay? And right. The Democrats, when they always pick them, they pick them like Brown down in Ferguson, Missouri. Hands up! Don't shoot! Which turned out to be a flat-out lie. And they stuck with it. And they got Obama, they got all this nonsense, and Brown committed 3 felonies in 11 minutes. And he attacked a cop. And he was a big boy. I sure wouldn't want to have been in a hand-to-hand with him. And he was exonerated. But you know what they did? They had a white case on and buried him. And I think it was horse-drawn, or I think it was horse-drawn, but a white case on, it's not like he's the president of the United States that gets buried in a case on, but the horse-drawn case on when Kennedy. So hang on a minute. We got to go to break. Hold on. I hear the music coming. This is Ralph Kermit Winterrowd II. I'm sitting in. I'm out of Alaska, and it's a nice, beautiful day out of Alaska. Lots of sunshine. Lee's been out quite a while. We finally got rid of our snow, thank goodness, and Greyhound or whatever. Boy, had a long winter. Pretty cold, down around minus 25 where I live for several weeks at a time, which is unusual because I live down here on the coast. I live on the oceans down here by Anchorage. So anyway, you still there, Tom?
Yes, I am, Ralph.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the thing, I don't have all the facts, so we can't really discuss really what happened, except the thing that we can discuss is that, number one, what he did is not an accepted practice by the police. Number two, it should never happen. They don't put their knees on their necks. That's a no-no, regardless
Ralph,
of the
that was an Israeli. That was Israel trained him to do that. And by the way, this guy.
Okay, well, wait, hold on, just a minute. Regardless of where he's training, if he is a policeman, his training for that city, his stuff should have included, you don't do that. This is a no-no.
Right.
Because you can kill people by that. You can put them out and all that. So with that said, I don't have any other facts of what really going on. I don't even know what the autopsy said. So we'll have to wait on all that. So with that said, the thing is, they take instances like this, Antifa, these people that are professionals, and they stir the public up. And, oh, my God, you're killing all the blacks, and you're doing this, and you're doing that, and away they go. And they're gullible.
Ralph, you're right about that. But Keith Ellison's son's an Antifa member. They had it on the news just now. The guy that's going to persecute Chauvin. Also, you got to remember, I was looking at the FBI statistics, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. There's so many crimes committed against white people by Afro-Americans. It's unbelievable. And you had the case in Alabama, with a girl her name was Paddington Houston, and she was leaving the bar, and she went in the bar to smoke a joint or something, and then they caught her, and then they caught the lady. I mean, they found the lady buried in a shallow grave, burnt crisp, and nobody was writing over that, and all these other women getting raped and murdered. There's no writing. What about all these?
Well, let's just agree, because we can't go into all that on this show here. The bottom line is, it happens both ways. There are bad people that are in the police. They're not a lot, but they're bad. I'll tell you where there's more. You know where there's more criminals? In Congress.
Right.
Because the Democratic Party is a party of criminals. And they prove it almost every day, because they, in lockstep, will do, we can kill a baby up to the time it's almost born, or we can have it born and set it on a thing and watch it die. Oh, that really works well. Nope, sorry. So anyway, you got any other points you want to make before I move on?
No, one more, Ralph. That was a great point you just made. Excellent point. I just want to say this. Trump's got to put squelch this thing right now tonight. This can't go on any longer. Or do something drastic. Because
he's trying. He had a conference today with the governors. I haven't read. He went after the governors because they're all weak. These blue state governors and mayors, they don't know their jobs. They don't have a job. They have an agenda. Just like in New York. I mean, can you believe? I'll move on here, but let me make this statement. We have this Chinese virus, COVID-19. We know it affects who? The old retired folks, like me, the older folks. So what do? Right. We put infected people back into a retirement home and say it's Trump's fault, and then we wonder why they're dying in there. You can't make this up. Who did it? New Jersey, New York, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I'm sorry. Well, they forgot to mention we get 3 times more money if you can get them to croak instead of just being infected. Isn't that amazing? And they don't know that. Who in his right mind would put infected people back in a retirement home where that's where most of the people are dying? You can't make this stuff up. Okay?
Yes. I'll leave you this thought, Ralph. What about Jaden Hayden beating up a 75-year-old man in a nursing home? And I'll leave it at that.
All righty. So anyway, back to see where was I here? Back to the citizen of the United States thing. The Supreme Court has ruled. Guess what? Because they have the people in the District of Columbia think they have a right to an Article III court. Supreme Court says, no, it's not in the Constitution. You have no right to a constitutional court if you're a citizen of the United States. You have no protections on taxation without representation. Supreme Court has said so. It's not in the Constitution of the United States. They don't know this. You have no right of the elective franchise or suffrage, because that is strictly to the citizens of the several states, people of the several states. It says so right in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2. So how did they pull this off? You see, Congress flipped everything upside down. And when they said the Reconstruction Acts after the Civil War, they were not lying. Now, everyone is guilty, and you have to prove you're innocent. Because they made the premier citizenship, citizen of the United States, in their world. Up, music. We'll be back in a minute. Stay tuned. Filling in, I'm out of Alaska, and I have a show every Sunday from 5 to 7 Central. And I'm talking about where I'm headed with this. This affects everybody listening. I mean, I've proven why you don't own your car. You think you own it, you don't. I know how they do it. I got the evidence. Black and white. I got the paperwork. We signed it away. You go into your divorce, child custody, all that. The courts are all rigged. I got the evidence. I got what's called cooperative agreements. They're all in cahoots to make money. I got the documents to prove it. And by the way, if you are involved in any of that type of stuff, I'm not going to get into great detail today because I don't have time with the 2 hours I've got here. Just email me at irs@alaskaminutman.com, and I'll give you some. I have the cooperative agreement stuff for every state. I just got him in here. A guy that I was helping, he had a lawyer that gave him access to all these, and I downloaded them. Boy, when you get a chance to get in the belly of the beast, you download everything you can. You can't make this stuff up, literally, because it's just so unbelievable. But the courts are all rigged. We, in reality, if you know what it's called, the cruel trilemma. It was the Star Chamber courts out of the 16th century. Every court today is in some flavor of a Star Chamber. The cruel trilemma. One was to, if you've watched Braveheart, confess your sins. They want you to, by some means, to confess to what they want to hear. That's the first part. Second part of the cruel trilemma has to be under the penalties of perjury. And the third one is, I will find you in contempt of court, or I will take your property, or put you in jail. And that's the result if you don't give them what they want. Confession. We've got amendments against that, but that doesn't seem to, I mean, if you know how it works. And I'll just give you an example. Criminal. Would you surrender your constitutional rights to be protected by the real constitution of your state? It's probably bogus. Almost every one I've looked at are right now. They're all bogus. They've been changed, but or the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights. Would you surrender all that? You see, everything that we do requires our consent. We have to consent to it. Now, let me give you an example. If you are in a United States District Court, which, by the way, does not exercise judicial power of the United States, because we have the government of the United States, that's twice in the Constitution of the United States that was established, it's exercising judicial power of a district court. That's codified. It's a court. 28 U.S.C. 132. 28 U.S.C. 132. Judicial power of a district court is not judicial power of the United States. So I did a word search in Westlaw. What does that mean? I'm farm boy. I don't get this stuff. I got to look stuff up. They tell us that judge in these United States District Courts, they changed it in 1948, he represents the court. And the court is controlled by Congress. They print it. It's an Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9, Legislative Court. So when you go into these federal courts, United States Court of the United States, which it's not, It's a legislative court. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9. Tribunal, it's called. Inferior to the Supreme Court. They print it. I don't have to make it up. They print it. It's rigged. So anyway, how do they get people on? Let's just give an example of this cruel trilemma. Now you go into, if you've ever been called into a jury, which I have, and they always start off on the precursor to screen you. Is there anybody here that's not a citizen of the United States? And I hold up my hand. Yay, that's me. The judge has me come up and we have a little conversation, and then I get excused. So how do they do this? They screen you, federal or in Alaska, before you get to sit on a, quote, jury to be called as a possible member of the jury. So they go through the little things, you have any biases and all that other nonsense, which they're not supposed to have. There's one thing they have to do. They have to get the person that's being prosecuted permission to abandon his inalienable rights and abandon his Declaration of Independence. His inalienable rights been created. They have to get you to consent to do that. And how do they do that? It has to be on the record. Go watch any federal criminal trial. Before jeopardy attaches to the jury, the judge, without exception, will always ask, is there anybody here not a citizen of the United States? And there's nobody ever says anything because they don't know even what the heck it is. And if you don't object, you just surrendered and said, I want to be tried by these people that have no constitutional rights, no right of the elective franchise, no protections of Article 3, nothing. They have to do that. Every federal court will do that. Guaranteed. And one more thing. From 1789 to 1913, if we have the government of the United States, who do you think ought to be the real party of interest prosecuting? It would be United States. You think? The plaintiff? No, you won't see the plaintiff being United States today. But when did that change? And what did it change to? In 1913, they did the 17th Amendment. And I stumbled across the case, and I hadn't caught it. And it goes into what happened with the 17th Amendment. That's where we took away the legislatures of the several states elected senators of the United States. The people of the several states elect representatives. That's still there. They haven't changed that one because they've got us all dumbed down to think we're a citizen of the United States. Go look at your voter registration. What they didn't have the legislatures of the several states. So what they did in the 17th Amendment is the people of the state. They left out the word several. Just one word. Well, guess what happened as soon as the 17th Amendment passed? All of a sudden, the real party of interest, the plaintiff, is no longer United States. It's United States of America. Go look at any case. Go look at them in Westlaw, then they'll capitalize United States, and then it's of America, upper and lowercase, in your court cases. From 1913 on, it took them 3 years to finally work out United States. That's why Westlaw is so valuable, because you can go in and search all these things and see what year it happened and all that. So why do we have United States of America now prosecuting anybody criminally? I think that's a damn good, fair question. What happened to the United States? Because our republic's been overthrown. And we did it. Because you see, what they did, the Constitution is for who? The people of the several states and the several states. That's the two parties in the 10th Amendment. Well, if neither one of those parties are present in the Constitution of the United States, what do we do then? That's when they started the 13th, no, the organic amendments are 1 through 12, and we started the Citizen of the United States nonsense with the 13th. And it's not an amendment. It says it's an article right in the thing if you read it. And it says Congress can legislate. Have you ever heard of an amendment in the Bill of Rights that Congress can eliminate? Oh, we have the Second Amendment, and Congress can legislate on it? No, shall not be infringed. That was to put a stop. You can't go there, Congress. Well, guess what? There were no parties to the Constitution of the United States after the 17th Amendment. So then we said, well, we don't need to worry about the allocation of income, of money, so taxation will make it, because there's nobody with the several states anymore, so we can play this little game with the 16th Amendment. Oh, let's do the Federal Reserve. There's nobody home, so we can do phony money. Isn't it amazing how that all happened in 1913? Oh, yeah. And then what they started, which I got in this brief, by the way, I started looking, do we do laws of the United States anymore? We started off doing that. It's in Article 6 of the Constitution, laws of the United States. Of is a preposition, source, origin, and relationship. The is an article saying it means it's only one. Who? United States. Laws of the United States. Do we do those today? No. You say you got to be crazy. What's Congress doing up there? Well, I have all of the statutes. By the way, I have if people join my IRS list for $250, or if you can't, you just email me at irs@alaskaminuteman.com and tell me why. I'll still add you. I'm trying to get this information out there. I want facts, informed people with the documents. Because I got access. I spent over $100,000 when I had my business getting books. Some of them I give $1,000 a book to get my hands on. Like the missing the 13th Amendment out of Virginia. I got 2 volumes, $1,000 I gave for those 2 volumes. It happened. Anyway, if you get a member of the list for $150, I will get a 1 terabyte, and I will give you 500 megabytes of research. Everything I got. Stuff you will never find. Guaranteed. The Common Law of 1811. 6 volumes. What happened in 1948? There's only a couple volumes of those books left, and I got them out of Gonzaga Law Library and copied every damn page. Took a long time to get good, clean copies of how they overthrew our court system. Their stuff. I like to read confessions. I'm like a priest. You can confess, but the problem is I got loose lips and I cannot keep government secrets. So anyway, in the 1913, we go through that. All of a sudden, we got United States of America. Now, there's some important concepts here. If you go look at, like I was talking about in the IRS, go definition of person, 26 U.S.C. 7701A, 1, person is an individual or a corporation. What would an individual, me, have in common with a corporation? Well, you go look up the definition of individual, because this is the game they play. They use definitions, term, means. So you go to 5 U.S.C. 552A, A2. 5 U.S.C. 552A, A2. Individual means. This is a whole unique, exclusive definition. Citizen of the United States or an alien lawfully admitted. So let's go back to the definition of person. Person is a citizen of the United States or a corporation, and we yada yada, all the other partnerships and all the other stuff. What do they all have in common? Civil rights. So what is the civil rights? That means that a citizen of the United States or a corporation can go sue each other in the courts. But so can somebody under the law of nations from France. They can sue in the same courts. Civil rights. What's missing? If a citizen of the United States has no political rights, who the heck in this country, who's voting, who's in charge of the political rights? I have a great brief that explains it in great detail out of Virginia. Who has the political rights today? Well, you see, I went into Westlaw and I searched, and these people are so proud of it, they're rubbing our noses in it. United States of America is a sovereign body politic. United States of America is a sovereign body politic. I got 110 cases. I put into public records so I can quote it that way, with the cases, the parties, the court, locations, case numbers. It happened from the Department of Justice. 110 cases. United States of America is a sovereign body politic. Now, anybody that's got any constitutional training should scare the living pee-wadding out of you. Who the heck is the sovereign body politic? That means I'm a slave. It's Congress. Congress is a sovereign body politic. That's a fact. I got 110 cases to prove it. Because, see, when you sign up as a citizen of the United States to go vote, okay, you let in the building, we don't have the Black Lives Matter, Antifa, or white supremacists, or whatever flavor of whatever thing is out there, you can go in and vote. But the right of the elective franchise and the right of suffrage is only for citizens of the several states. That's what this brief said, too. It said, well, you can have elections for the public officers of the several states. Well, these states don't want to do that. They're under the thumb of, they've surrendered their sovereignty under the state plan. That's what I have. I have the state plans for every state. That is the source of all of your cooperative agreements for your child custody. I have one out of Alaska, I got it updated, where the judge is audited for the amount of money he makes for everybody that's sitting in that courtroom. They are auctioning your children off under there's a public law. Oh, I guess for hair music, so I'll be back in a minute. Well, I'm back. This is Ralph Kermit Winterrowd II out of Alaska, and I'm sitting in today for the host. And talking about this overthrow of our republic. So what did they do? Well, I was talking about earlier, there's no laws of the United States. So we did the 13th Amendment. Ever since then, we have United States of America is a sovereign body politic. So I have all the statutes that I also put out when I said for what you get on the list for $150. You get all the statutes of the United States up to, I think I go up to about 1990, somewhere along in there. I said, well, let me go look at the statutes and see when this might have changed. So I started looking at them. And the statutes at large, public statutes at large, were laws of the United States, and they call them statutes. Then around 1900, they were doing some other tweaking too, but the main parts is around 1900 to 1937. They had the statute or laws of the United States, and then we would have laws of the United States of America in the same heading, right together. And then all of a sudden, it was just laws of the United States of America. Then it started the laws of the United States of America with public laws together. Then all of a sudden it's just public laws in 1937. From 1937 we only have public laws. Was the Constitution amended? Well, the first thing you learn in law, look up every word, the definition, so you can understand what they're talking about. Just like in medical terms. So what is public law? I went to Black's Fourth, which, by the way, I have all these different dictionaries included too. 4th, 5th, 6th, all those. It says the branch or department of law which is concerned with the state in its political or sovereign capacity. Really? Did you know United States of America, it said the sovereign capacity? I got 110 cases and it says that's what they's doing. They're bragging about it. Going on, including constitutional administrative law. Do you know they can't do administrative law in an Article 3 court? No. If I get time, I'll get to that. They can't do it. And it says the state is regarded as the subject of the right or the object of the duty. It's their right. I have right. They're in charge of me? You can't make this up. Did anybody ever tell you that a Form 1040 is an implied in law contract? You are admitting you have an obligation, but the IRS has nothing back to you. It's called an implied in law contract. You ever hear him talk about that? No. Ken in Long Island. Let's see, what time is it here? We may not have much time here, so why don't you hang on and we'll catch you after we come back after the break. Ken in Long Island. So then, it's capable of holding and exercising rights, acquiring and dealing in property in the character of an individual. This United States of America is acting as though it's an individual? There's something rotten in Denmark here, folks. Back after the break. Well, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you be in the world. This is Ralph Kermit Winterrowd II, Cabo, Alaska. I'm sitting in for the host today. And we're talking about Republic has been overthrown. Unbelievable. Don't believe anything I say. Prove it. I can prove it. Anyway, let's get to our caller, and then I'll get back to what I was talking about. Ken in Long Island, question or comment?
Yeah, the truth is, black rioters don't give a damn about what you have to say about the law. Jews that run the Federal Reserve and the media, they don't give a damn about what you're talking about. So how the hell are you blaming this on white people that made these laws, and then you want to say that, oh, we're all guilty? You know, so it's
whoa, stop right there.
You are
I'm not blaming
coward,
anything
man.
on white people.
You should be thrown off this damn show right now. So sick of hearing your crap.
Hey, whoa. Can I talk just a minute? What did I say? I'm blaming it all on white people. You got to be kidding me. I didn't blame anything on white people. I guarantee you. A troll, an agitator, making stuff up. I am not what we call a real racist. You know what I am? I'm a constitutionalist. Inalienable rights for everybody, and that means everybody obeys the rule of law. I don't give a twit about the color of your skin. It's irrelevant to me. But if you're the type of racist that they are today, which is identity politics, which means if you don't agree with me, you're a racist. It's called identity politics. Let's get our definition straight. So anyway, back to this. Public law. Going on, it says powers, rights, and duties, capacities, and incapacities which are peculiar to political superiors, supreme and subordinate. Political superiors. United States of America is a sovereign body politic. Well, what does that make me? If they're the sovereign, I must be what? I'm a slave. You can't make this stuff up, literally. It's in the words, the terms. And they did it outside the Constitution of the United States. And you and me did it because we are saying, I don't know who I am, because I'm not taught. I wasn't taught any of this in school, and I paid attention. I guarantee you. Valedictorian, I didn't get that by being totally stupid. They don't teach it. Why would they? We don't want the people to understand who we are. We are a citizen of one of the several states, domiciled in one of the several states, that locks in what's called the law of the land. It's also called due process of law. Those meanings are exchanged, meaning the same. What do they talk about today? Just due process. they don't talk about due process of law. Why is that? Because due process of law of the land, which means I would have to be attached to the dang land. It's called birthright. That's so important, your birthright. We are so blessed. And even if I am not, you can be naturalized as a, quote, citizen of the United States of America, end quote. Not a citizen of the United States, citizen of the United States of America. I got the documents, naturalization documents. Go read them. Then you become domiciled in one of the several states with domicile as one permanent fixed home where you're attached to terra firma. You can have a lot of residences, reside, all that other nonsense. You get a birthright. Can we look at the Bible and maybe learn something from the Bible? Esau got rid of his birthright. He gave it up for some porridge and little beans. He lost his lineage and the right to own property. The Creator was pissed at him. I wonder why. Birthright is so important. Why do people want to get to America if it's such a piss-poor place to be? The problem is the people that are coming in today, we don't know what they have. They want free stuff. They want freedom. I don't blame anybody wanting to come here. If I could figure if I was in Mexico or some other place and I could get to America somehow, legally, I would come. You can't come illegally. I've got to have a rule of law. Otherwise, our way of life is going down the tube. And that's what's working today. That's why it is so important. Our republic hangs by a mere thread. It's been overthrown. But Trump is changing things. The W-4 today from the IRS is actually constitutional, where you volunteer into the system. You have to write exempt on it, and all you have to do is a name and social security number. I used to modify those. They've changed the 1099s, miscellaneous, to a new one. And I can't confirmedly say, but it looks like it's constitutional too. So somebody's working behind the scenes here to change things. But you can't change it all at once or the whole republic could crash. Because we don't got no courts. These people in jail don't have any, we're going to turn all these people loose? Of course not. But it takes an informed judgment. Jose, my people die for a lack of knowledge. That's what I'm trying to do with real documents. So many people are spewing BS out there. My opinion is not what I am trying to put out. I'm trying to put out what I have learned with the knowledge and wisdom of their documents. This brief that's Mooney's into the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals. If you want it and listen to the show, just email me at irs@alaskaminutman.com. You don't have to be a member of the list. It'll take quite a few emails to get it because it's got 998 pages of appendix documents to prove it. Their stuff. And it will shock you. I guarantee you, if you read it. And there's an awful lot in there. So anyway, getting back to this laws of the United States, that's a problem. We got to have a rule of law. Well, we have to make laws of the United States. Well, first of all, there's nobody technically up there making them anymore because they're making what's called public law, where they're the sovereigns and we're the slaves. And I got 110 cases where they say so. They admit it. Have you ever seen it? I'll bet nobody's listening has. The only reason why I stumbled across it, because I just happened to be assisting somebody with some information, and that popped up because I go into Pacer, which is the government's webpage of all of the federal, all the courts of the United States. Actually, they're federal courts today, with all the different briefs. I read their stuff. There's a lot of good stuff to be read. These the big boys use Westlaw. And I like to see what they say. Because a lot of them are highly trained, intelligent people. And I like to see when they're in a pissing match what they're saying. You can't believe the stuff you find. And you can't believe the stuff you won't find. There are certain definitions, like the definition of alien that involves a citizen of the United States. They will not touch that. They won't touch it at all. So anyway, back to this. Back in March 3rd, 1933, Hoover, on his last day in office, signed a bill repealing 1,006 statutes. This makes no sense. When they do the codification nonsense, they put in repealers. Why on his last day would he repeal 1,006 statutes? Well, guess what happened? Next thing that happens, we have this Recovery Act, Industrial Recovery Act, Administrative Recovery Act, that FDR put in, called the New Deal. Oh, yeah. The New Deal. Let me look up find the thing here. And so what did he start doing? FDR loved Mussolini. He thought he was the greatest thing since popcorn, because he was doing that national type of stuff, that national type of a government, and he loved what he was doing. He loved it. Unbelievable. So what happened? In the first 15 months, after March 4th, 1933, President alone issued 674 executive orders. By the way, that is in House Report number 280. That's part of the information that I filed. National Recovery Administration Act, 2,998 administrative orders. These agencies were running wild, and they call them law. And they said there was over 10,000 pages of regulations, which is where I'm headed today. I'm going to have to get it down here in the time I have. They started making regulations. Well, we have all kinds of regulations. It's called the standard of review. What's the standard of review that we're taught in school? We're taught the House and the Senate pass it by a majority. The president signs it or he vetoes it. It goes back, and the House and the Senate by a 2/3 do the veto. It becomes, quote, a law of the United States, which they don't do anymore, and they're called public laws. Look, they call them PL, public laws. That's what we're taught. That's called the standard of review. I have to have a law. And we have notice, because they give us notice. If you keep track of it, of what they're doing, they're up to so much nonsense, but they have to give us notice. And there has to be a procedure that we know and can rely on to make what's called a rule of law. Otherwise, what do we do? How do you know that what the crime is, civil or anything? That's called the rule of law. So what they did is, they were doing all these regulations, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt is losing control. So in 1935, they did the Federal Register Act. Well, they had to legitimize executive orders. And they're put in the Federal Register. They did the Federal Register Act, and they made the President of the United States, a federal agency means the President of the United States. So they made the President of the United States a federal agency. That's in the Federal Register Act, 1935. They also said the agencies, they also have to put their stuff in the Federal Register. So we have notice. We're being ruled by legal notice. Well, they still had a problem, because these agencies were putting everything from apples to soup to beans. They just made it up. I'm going to regulate this. I'm going to regulate that with a regulation. So FDR had a government presidential committee do a research in 1937. Just what's going on here? How do I get control of these agencies? And they come back with a term called the headless fourth branch of government. I kid you not. And in the congressional record, they talk about it. They said our forefathers would not recognize what's going on today. We have a fourth branch called the headless fourth branch of government. They're external establishments, Federal Reserve, SEC, FDIC, all of them. They sit outside the Constitution, and they say the reason why they put them out there is because, they'll be free of political involvement. But there's no oversight. Man cannot operate, and anything has to be accountable. When you lose accountability, we're done. So they did those in 1937. Headless fourth branch of government. Well, they started with the Walter Logan Act, and it got passed in 1939, and FDR vetoed it. And the reason why he vetoed it, because there was no specific procedure for regulations to be promulgated that have what's called a force and effective law. That was 1939, Chrysler v. Brown, but they were using it back then, the force and effective law, but the Supreme Court finally held it in 1979. So they have a problem. We have to have a known procedure called what? The standard of review. When I see a regulation, I got to know that it has what's called the force and effective law. It's not law. It looks like, but it's not. It's for citizens of the United States in that world. And FDR vetoed it. So what did they do? They had called the final report of the Attorney General's Committee in 1941. And he went in. It's a great read, and I'll be honest, I haven't read all of it because there's so many pages. It is a great, excellent history of our republic and all the different agencies and what they were doing. Well, it come up with some amazing stuff. First of all, it said, and let me read this, but the key is, it says, we can't do rulemaking at Article 3 courts because that's cases and controversies. Duh! How are we going to make this administrative state fly? Because Article 3 courts can't do it. It's prohibited. They're limited jurisdiction. There's got to be real parties. The common law. There's got to be a statute. Or if there's not a statute, then we go into equity to try to do something that's fair. So this is what they said here. This is his thing. Many of the functions just discussed might, and they're talking about the administrative law, as far as the Constitution is concerned, have been assigned directly to the courts. Congress, for example, might conceivably have empowered the federal district courts. Now, this is a federal district courts, because they're courts of the District Court of the United States is a constitutional one, to hear claims for Social Security benefits. By the way, if you accept a benefit, shut the hell up, because you have no rights or remedy to fix. Supreme Court said so. Started back in 1792 with Hayburn and on up. Anyway, so for this reason, expediency or appropriateness, Congress did not use this method. In other situations, however, no such choice under the Constitution is open to Congress. Federal courts created under Article 3 can be authorized only to decide cases and controversies, which is in quotation marks, to use the constitutional phrase. From the early day, the Supreme Court has regarded this restriction as an important one to be scrupulously observed. Cases and controversies, broadly speaking, are matters in which a court can determine with finality the rights of adverse parties to the making and applying law to the facts as found. Thus, the whole field of rulemaking, with the exception of rules of judicial procedures, is outside the constitutional competency of the courts. For rules do not determine rights of specific litigants, but like statutes are addressed to people generally. You can't do Article 3 courts and have rules and regulations. So they come up with the United States District Court in 1948. That's the first problem we got. The next problem is, which is really important on this whole thing, there's so much of this, and I'm giving a great cover, but he goes into the substantive regulations that have the force effects of law. He goes into what's called interpretive regulations that are not binding, which is all they do. We have interpretive regulations. Imagine an agency interpreting what Congress said. How did the courts did that? There's smoke. They have procedural, not irrelevant. They have administrative, irrelevant. And you know what people go to jail for with IRS and other ones? Part 301 regulations. They'll have 26 CFR Part 301 something. That's housekeeping. It's nothing. It's smoke. That kind of mess. Okay, well, we're back here, and this is Ralph Winterrowd II. I'm sitting in for the host, and talking about the overthrow of our republic. Also, it goes on here talking about, first of all, we can't have the administrative state in an Article 3 court, so that's a problem. So let's create tribunals. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9, legislative courts. The judge represents the court, and the court's under the control of Congress. That's what's going on today. But let's get back to the reason. See, I like to know the reason, their logic, because they always come up with a good reason. It says here a statute, this is out of the Attorney General's research, or a common law gives one individual a right to go to court and sue the other. That sounds like a good idea. Worked for a long time in England and over here. This procedure is likely to be expensive. It is uncertain. Oh, did you know it's uncertain? Because you got to have facts, got to be able to prove it and all that good stuff. At best, in the ordinary action for money damages, it leads only to compensation for the injury, which is seldom as satisfactory as not having been injured at all. To be sure, courts of equity administer a substantial measure of preventive justice by giving injunctions against the threatened injuries. Now, I don't know for a fact, but the pecuniary injuries where you get past what the injury is, extra money is probably equity, but I don't know. Anyway, but it is necessary to prove the threat. What a novel idea. If I'm being sued, wouldn't you like the person to be able to have to prove it? And other limitations confine the scope of this mode of relief. The desire to work out a more effective and a more flexible method of preventing unwanted things from happening accounts for the formation of many, although by no means, federal administrative agencies. Because we may not get the result we want. And it's expensive. We got to have real facts called essential elements. We can't have that. Then they talk about the common law. Then they said thus licensing is one of the most significant preventive devices, because they're talking about that under the civil law, criminal is always after the fact, and they wanted to do civil. Okay, there's reason for it. I mean, it makes sense in a way. It said it would be possible to prevent anyone to act as a pilot of a plane, then, and to punish those whose incompetency led to accidents or to prohibit them from acting as pilots again. People have preferred, however, an attempt by a licensing method to assure competence in advance. Okay, we do licensing, but the problem is they've got a good concept. Instead of a permit, it's a license, which they control. It's not just that they're competent, then they go into everything else. But it's a nice cover. That was their excuse. They always get a good excuse. Always. But then they always run away with the farm, because agencies are not accountable to the people. They're not elected by us. I'm going to go after them. I'm guaranteed. I've found a way to do it. I'm going to do it. I already went after a judge. Like, it can be done. We didn't win, but the guy, he quit. But that's all right. I got it all lined out. It's all locked up tight. Can be done. So what did they come up with? They come up with the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946. What was its purpose? The exclusive purpose of the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946 is to have substantive regulations a procedure that required, one, to give us notice. We've got to know what the hell these guys are doing if they're an agency, just like the constitutional side. And the other one is what? A known procedure that we can say, just like in the Congress and the House voted on, the president signed it or vetoed it, and it was overcome. We got to give it the appearance to be called a standard of review. That is in Section 3 is notice of the Administrative Procedures Act. And Section 4 is the procedure that has to happen if it has the force and effect of law, which was the only reason for the APA of 1946. I've never seen one. And I've read hundreds, probably thousands. I don't know how many regulations I've looked at. How can we prove the IRS? You have to be able to prove this because, you see, everything is upside down. You have to be proved. You can't just say it because that ain't going to get you nowhere. Well, you go look at any IRS book. Go in, it's going to law library. Code of Federal Regulation, Title 26, Internal Revenue, Part 1. That's the first one. On page 3, every year they print this. And what does it say? It's really interesting. It's just really slick. I mean, these guys are good. The devil is good. It says here, editorial note, Treasury Decision 6091, 19 FR, that means Federal Register, 5167, August 17th, 1954. 19 space FR space 5167 provides in part as follows. Only in part. Back in a minute. Okay, Ralph Kermit Winterrowd II, back with the host. And so how do they do this? You go to the law library. I had to get this out of Hines Online, but that's the very first book, Part 1. Go down to page 3. It talks about this Federal Register, and it says it's in part. Why wouldn't they print the whole Federal Register? It's in the Federal Register. It's only one page. It's less than one page, about half a page, actually. They leave out the last paragraph because this Treasury decision merely provides for the continuance of existing rules pending further action. It is hereby found, oh my God, I love these. I see this all the time. It is impractical and contrary to the public interest to incur the delay which would result if this Treasury decision were issued with notice and public procedure thereon under Section 4A of the Administrative Procedures Act approved June 11, 1946, or subject to the effective date limitation of Section 4C of said Act. It's impractical. It's contrary to the public interest to incur the delay. Oh, wow! They're so concerned about us. That is the only reason why the Administrative Procedures Act was instigated, and the IRS says, we're not doing it. Okay, that's a general everything. So now, how do I get down to a specific? How do I know? I get a notice of deficiency in the mail. Oh, Ralph, you're due. And an assessment. You owe this amount of money. What do I do? Oh, my God, panic, run. No. Because you see, they go to tax court. Oh, yeah, it's not even a court. Well, now you go to the foundation. First of all, it's just like laws of the rule of law. Is this thing, what's it based on? Because you have to have a regulation. Well, I go into the 1967, which is the base when they started this, putting them all together for this stuff. I find that a notice of deficiency and an assessment determination are Part 301 regs. Part 301 regs are housekeeping, internal use only, smoke and mirrors nonsense. They're not binding on anybody, including their filing the regulation when they file the notice of federal tax liens in their county. They're 301 regs. Wait a minute, we got a problem here. This is a generic, says you guys are lying to me because I have to prove myself innocent. Then the states use gross income. Oh, you have gross income. Yay! Well, I go in and I look at that regulation, and it starts on part 1. They don't even talk about the Administrative Procedures Act. So there's the con. They don't talk about it, and it's codified today in 5 USC 553. This is the key. So how do I prove this? I got to prove this stuff. Instead of running for cover, I go look at the regulations for notice of deficiency and the definition of deficiency and assessment, federal tax liens. What do I find? How do I prove it? Here's how you do it. You go, number 1, you find the Code of Federal Regulation that applies, the one that applies for deficiencies, say. It's called 26 CFR, and it'll be part 301 and in some statute referring to the statutory law that supposedly it's under. You go down to the Federal Register. At the bottom, every one of these, without exception, must publish it in the Federal Register. You open up that Federal Register, and here's what you're looking for. It's going to say proposed rule. Okay, that happens to everything. But here's the key. You're looking for, does it comply with 5 USC 553 or 553B? You will never find one that does. They always say, oh, it's not due, it's not in the public interest, or they leave it out. If it does not state that, that's the same thing as a vote in Congress. If Congress didn't vote on it, then by dang, it can't even look like a law of the United States, can it? So that's the first one. Proposed rule, you'll search on 553, 5 USC 553. Just search on 553. And it won't be there. It'll say, we're not doing it, or it'll be missing. And they have to allow you to comment. Oh, they say, oh, we'll allow you to comment. Well, that's irrelevant. If you're not following the procedure so that I know it has a rule of law in the crazy world, we're done. So now it comes back as a final rule. They have to address the comments, which they do in all kinds of regulations. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But it must state, again, it's in compliance with 5 USC 553 or 553B. You won't see one. And it may or may not wait 30 days. That's D. Sometimes, oh, it's just such an emergency. We just did it at the last minute, so we're going to ignore all that too. But that's not the most important. The most important part is 553, because that is the same as Congress voting on it, the president signing, or a veto overruled, overcome by the Congress and by the House and by the Senate. If it does not say that, it has no force effective law. That is the mandatory procedure that you can take any regulation, and I have never seen one yet in anything I've ever done, looked up. They redid it in 1966. They recodified everything and made it under 5 USC 553. And it's actually B, C, and D. And what's interesting is the Administrative Procedures Act of Section 3, which is a notice, Section 4 is the procedure. There's no link from that statute to the new recodification, which is really unusual because in Westlaw, you can always take a statute, look at any section, and see where the code is today. They left that link out. Well, I happen to have the 1946 code, and I have that, so I know how the links go. I can prove it, but we don't need that. That's how called the standard of review for any agency, state or federal, because all the states are tied into the federal somewhere, guaranteed, without exception. Take the state plan. The state plan, they overthrew the states in 1935 because we had unemployment. They said, we need to have a standardized unemployment, so let's just have a state plan. I have all the state plans. And in them, every regulation that your state is using is federal. CFR, Code of Federal Regulation. What does it cover? They have cooperative agreements that say the court's got to have a written agreement with the executive, the CSSD, or whatever your child slavers are, the Department of Law, the cops. They all got agreements amongst each other. It's mandated. And they have them. Boy, they don't want to cough them up. It takes work to get them to cough them up because there's not a lot of people in the system know they are there. There says they must exist to get federal grant money. And Article 6 of a cooperative agreement between the child slavers and the court, Article 6, the judge is audited for the amount of money he makes for everybody. It's in black and white. And they go even farther. They have one that says, for adoptions, let's put a bounty on children. Let's put a baseline and a bounty on them. $4,000 for the healthy one, $2,000 for the ones that are sickly, crippled. I kid you not. I got the statute. And I think Alaska, I got to go back and see, I think it's up to $15,000 or $20,000 now. They are putting a bounty on children. And they say in this act, get them while they're young. Go get them youngins. I found this out working with a gal, Alice Brown, that had a little girl she was out of wedlock. She was way overweight just because she has a gland problem. And I guess women, because I wasn't blessed with that. It's another long story. But anyway, having a family and that. I guess women when they have birth, obviously there's a lot of pain involved. And they may say something, and they took that, and they had a doctor that was feeding that to the CSSD, our child slavers. So they took it away. Well, she's said something here, and she made a statement, so we're going to take this child away and adopt her. I knew it was all smoke. I couldn't prove it. I just kept digging and digging and digging, and she lost it. They adopted away her little girl. And I found this cooperative agreement stuff. I couldn't believe it. I said, they're selling children for money. And I got the stuff to prove it. So she had another out-of-wedlock child, a little boy down in Montana, she was. And we brought this up. A little smarter duck now. They wrote her a check for $20,000 and told her to get the hell out of Montana. But they didn't want this in the record. It's in the court record. There was a stipulation, we had an agreement. They don't put what it is, just like when they have these agreements. They dropped the case, and all of a sudden she went away. You can't make this stuff up. You just can't believe it. I don't like to get involved in those. I still provide the information to people that are doing child custody and divorces and all that. If you're willing to fight, I'll point you in the right direction and help you. Because I went into one of them, and I kid you not, I went into one of them over there. It was happened to be a black guy and a white woman. And I was just out there trying to find out what was going on, why they were there. And they get caught up in this mess. And I went in there. They took my cell phone, they took my camera and everything away from me, so I couldn't record anything. But I honest to God, I tell you, I walked in that courtroom, and that attorney for the state turned around, and she said a chill. It was like cold air or something. It's like evil. I just couldn't believe it. And I sat there and I watched. And then I got booted out because I had mentioned the name. They'd mentioned the name outside to me. I got the transcript to prove it. And we tried serving them in the courthouse. Of course, I got escorted out. I've been escorted out of the state courts. I've been escorted out of the federal courts downtown at Anchorage. Not doing anything wrong, just talking. We served a gal in this out here in Palmer, and the trooper said I couldn't do it. Well, I showed him the rule of court. But anyway, he ordered me out. So what are you going to do? I go. I'm not always peaceful. You know, don't get anything by getting. So I did a Sig Heil to him. Pissed him off big time. He says, I can arrest you. So I walked outside and turned around and did another Sig Heil. I says, well, you going to arrest me? Because I had witnesses back then. He didn't. I got thrown out of the federal courthouse because I saw these people getting naturalized and I wanted to go in. Just stumbled across it. I wanted to see what goes on in there. They wouldn't let you in. They come outside, and what they do is they give you a document that you're naturalized as a citizen of the United States of America, and right outside the door they get you to sign up to be a citizen of the United States, so you drop it all in the trash. You give up your sovereign status instead of becoming a citizen of Alaska. Now and I got to redo it, but I have voted as a citizen of Alaska. I have a status in the public record, which becomes self-authenticating under Evidence Rule 901, number 7. I have a driver's license under that. I challenged him. I wanted him to take me on. I crossed it out right in front of the gal. I said, oh, no, that's not a problem, Mr. Winterrowd. Now, what really pissed me off, they were taking out 15% of my Social Security, and I did this status, and I changed my registration to a citizen of Alaska. They quit taking it out, so I called up the IRS to rub their nose in it, to prove it. Oh, we're going to take out that 15%. I says, come on, baby. They didn't. And what really pissed me off, they didn't renew the notice of federal tax lien so I could take a case myself. That's all right. I'll get even with these people. And I mean get even with them. They're evil. That's what I'm trying to do, is to wake up people with real facts. And this brief that's filed on the Mooney's case is about one of them is standing between the United States and the United States of America. When that was filed into the Court of Claims, which is a Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9 court, it's a legislative court too. The judge put it in her chamber for 13 days. She didn't know what to do with it before they put it into PACER. Never ruled on it. So anyway, we're in that brief and the complaint with its attachments, and the new stuff is now sitting in the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals of the United States. Just got accepted finally, third time. 998 pages of attachments and 14,000 words. Because another one of the cons they're doing today, one form of action. One form of action is legal, which means you can take common law and equity and go off into law land and make up whatever you're doing in the states. It cannot stand in a court of the United States because Article 3, Section 1 and 2 says it's got to be law and equity. They can't do it. These courts have to have the common law and equity, and there's none out there right now. States don't do them, and the United States District Court can't do it. It can't accept that status. The Supreme Court says, well, it acts like an Article 3 court. You can't act like it. Supreme Court's already ruled like territorial courts. You can't accept judicial power of the United States. You can call them a District Court of the United States, but what they did, they changed it around and put them all in Chapter 5 in their Title 28, so they put like a bird, an eagle, and a dove. Back in a minute. Well, we're back here. I'm sorry, I pushed a button here and I muted. Got caught here. I muted myself here. I had a cell phone come in and I muted it and I didn't unmute it. Anyway, can't be perfect. I'm just close, right? Anyway, I have a show every Sunday, 5 to 7. I have real stuff, real cases. I highly recommend reading this case. If you're really interested, I'm looking for people to get the facts. Pick up your own mind. Get the documents. I provide the documents and research stuff. What I talk about, I can prove. And it shocks even me. Our republic has been overthrown. And we're the guilty parties, you and me, because we don't have the evidence and the fact. It's really good. Satan's a smart old bird and all of his minions. But I have this stuff. We just can't make this stuff up. How could they do all this in front of us? Well, they're lie. It's just like all this nonsense of this black guy getting taken down by a white cop. Okay, well, there's white guys taken down by black cops. That's not the issue. There are bad cops. There's more bad people in Congress than there are bad cops. The thing is, they're being stirred by Antifa. Thank God Trump's going after them to make them a terrorist organization. And Laura Logan showed how to find them. She said they always got the fanciest, expensive gas mask. They got a backpack usually. They got an earpiece for communications, and they're out there stirring the public up. That's what is the core issue. And the Democratic Party is against our Constitution and our way of life. They're trying to overthrow our republic. They're no different than the Trojan horse. Except they're out in the open. And since Trump got in, it's always hate Trump. What's he trying to do? Get the Constitution back. I listened to his inauguration speech. I'm going to give the power back to the people and to the several states. And this is like, oh my God, he can't do that. Well, that's what we had. But how many people really want to stand up and fight with the truth? Not many. That's what's disappointing. But numbers are growing. It takes a while because we've been brainwashed. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the show and watch out for the federales, and we'll catch you later.